Hi, and welcome to the Let's K-12 Better podcast. This podcast is a project between Mom of All Capes and her kids.
Hi!
In our podcast, we will cover a variety of subjects involving K-12 education and family life.
We will talk about the ways that parents, kids, and educators can improve K-12 education and family life. We encourage you to join our conversation on social media using the hashtag Let's K-12 Better. Welcome to episode 18 of the Let's K-12 Better podcast. Wait, also guys, wait a second. It's episode 18? Imagine if someone gave you a lemon poppy seed muffin to survive on for the rest of your life. And that was the only thing you were allowed to eat because that's what your parents and their parents ate. Now you only allow your kids to survive on lemon poppy seed muffins for the rest of their lives. To make matters worse, if someone told you blueberry muffins were delicious, you scoffed them and continued to choke down your lemon poppy seed muffins because traditionally, that's all you've known to be good, right, truthful, or the acceptable way. When you do try a blueberry muffin, you refuse to experience it as a blueberry muffin. Instead, you turn it into a weird version of lemon poppy seed muffin, sprinkling poppy seeds and lemon essence on top.
This is what we are doing right now. We are choking on one version of history, one version of what is beautiful, one version of what is acceptable, one version of a narrative of how to live. And when we do accept other versions of what is acceptable, beautiful, historically accurate, we force that version to contort itself to fit into the previous narrative that we're so afraid to let go of. Aren't we hungry for something else?
Diverse narratives expose us to the breadth of cultures around us, broadening our understanding of what it means to be human in the world. These narratives connect us to each other through experience and thought. Right now, we are in a movement where we are analyzing the stories and perspectives that have been available to us for hundreds of years. These narratives do not serve us anymore. They do not provide us the truths we need to forge bonds across differences.
Narratives, the stories we base our understanding of reality on, form at home and at school. We need to acknowledge the power that narratives have in shaping human behavior and human interactions. We must challenge our curriculum, our media, our bookshelves, our religions, our friendships, and our interactions online. Our stories, our narratives, they're not diverse enough, and they do not lend the space to accept the perspectives and grievances of others free from the judgment or narcissism of dominant culture. Okay, it's good to be back in family discussion. Yeah, it's awesome.
Back in the booth.
Back in the booth.
Back in the booth.
A lot has happened since our last discussion about COVID reopening, so people should check out that episode. 4 episodes before this one. Crazy. And then all the episodes in between. But today's discussion, because school is going to start for us, I think, in a couple days.
Yeah.
Yep. So we're going to talk about... Yeah, we're going to talk about the importance of narratives, right? Because we've been doing a lot of deep diving into other people's stories, right? What do other people think about life? And so we've been kind of digging deep and trying to figure that out.
Can I say something?
Well, we're going to start with the questions first. I mean, I don't want to cut you off.
No, you can.
Well, if you're going to say something, speak into the mic. Okay, all right. I guess we'll just go scripted here. So we'll start off with the first question. Question number 1. We've been doing a lot of reading of diverse narratives this month. So what are some things that you learned from reading these diverse books?
I read Spirit of Intimacy, Ancient African Teachings, and the Ways of Relationships by Sobonfu Somé. It was basically about ancient African ways of love. I really enjoyed the book, and I hope you guys read it someday. But yeah, it was really important. Like, because people don't really talk about things like love and like intimacy in books, especially not like Black love and intimacy. So I thought it was really cool to get a diverse perspective on this topic.
So what do they mean by intimacy?
So like in the book, they talked a lot about spiritual bonds. So from what I read, I think it's about not exactly love, but intimacy is kind of like forming a spiritual bond with your partner.
That's actually kind of cool.
That sounds like a good just saying of the word, what you think it means.
Yeah. That's cool. So what are you going to take from this reading to inform the way that you move through the world after reading this book?
Well, for a general perspective, like, you need to be open, but you also need to be you need to also hold dear to your goals. Or like, I guess this probably is a minor spoiler, but there was a part, it's like when you give birth to your children, you think they're going to carry on your aspirations and goals with their own, because you think that marriage is the sole purpose of having children. But really, it's for happiness and love, so that relationship will fall apart. It kind of like, you don't want, one, your relationships to fall apart, and two, you don't want like this unloving, terrible perspective on life.
So how is this like that is actually really cool. So a lot of people do get married for the sake of their kids, or they stay married for the sake of their kids, right? So you're talking about, like, in this book, like, when you get married and when you find your person for the rest of your life, you want to make sure that they have that person that you're with has their goals, right? That you have your goals, and that you allow your children
to have their own goals, but you can have goals together. You don't just have to have separate goals, but you can have goals together. You can have personal goals. You can have goals with just you and your partner, just you and your kids. It's just a matter of getting those goals done, being able to not just hang out with your family, but to achieve your goals as well.
That sounds like I need to reread that book. Did you enjoy it?
Yeah, I enjoyed it very much.
That's awesome. That is so awesome. Okay, what about you? What did you read?
I read that, like, in the beginning, I think it was a tip different, but they had, like, a talk.
Wait, time out. A talk? What book did you even read?
The Hate You Give.
Well, I mean, no one else that's listening right now knows that you read that book, so you have to be clear.
I didn't know it was recording.
Yeah, we're recording right now.
Wow. We need to edit this in.
Yo, no, this is staying.
Don't keep this in.
No, we're keeping it in.
No, you're not.
Yes, keeping this in. All right, here we go. Would you like to try again?
Yes. So I think a good book I read and watched the movie of was The Hate You Give. I mean, it was a good movie because, like, in the book, the girl, the main character, her name is Star, and she has two one younger and one older brother.
Wait, don't give away the whole thing. Just tell me the theme.
So I think the theme of it was that, like, what I got from it was you should express how you feel, but you shouldn't be mad at everyone for how you feel.
And how is it connected with what's going on today?
I think it's connected to what's going on today is, like, what I saw in the movie, a teeny spoiler, but, like, everyone, it was kind of like today, like how everyone was in the streets, like, chanting for the people who were getting killed.
So people were protesting police violence?
Like now.
Like right now. Star saw a traumatic event, right? All right. So, what did you think about someone her age witnessing something like that?
I feel like she wasn't a kid, but she was still, like, little.
Like a teen?
Yeah. She was, like, Gubby's age. So I think that her seeing that in that kind of world, it was really bad because, like, it was her friend, so it was even worse.
Mm-hmm.
If it was a stranger, yes, it would still be bad. But it was her friend that she really liked. So I feel like she felt bad because they were really close friends.
So, does a story like this, would a story like this help people to understand the perspectives of people who are going through police violence or police brutality?
I feel like yes, because it happened to the guy, and maybe they felt bad because that happened, even though it's a movie, but it still shows the main thing.
Okay, the main theme.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I have another question for you. You're 9, right?
Yes.
So was this book appropriate? What, or some people might oh my God, this is inappropriate for.
I feel
what did you think?
I feel like even though I'm 9 years old, it's still good to learn that it's bad rather than
What's bad?
Police violence is bad rather than chanting, yeah, that's good, or something like that, because all that's going on right now is really bad.
Why is it bad?
Because innocent people, that probably didn't get a trial, were just killed because they didn't know what to do, or
Who didn't know what to do?
The people who got shot or killed, they didn't know what they were doing wrong, or maybe they did, but they didn't get a trial.
So you're saying that even if someone did something wrong,
they didn't get to speak or have a voice.
You're bringing up some really good points, and I'm actually really glad that you read this book and saw the movie. So, what did you read?
I read We Should All Be Feminists by Chimamanda Adichie.
Cool. So can you tell me a little bit about feminism?
Feminism is advocacy or being an advocate for women's rights.
Can a man be a feminist?
Yeah.
Why?
Because you don't have to be a woman to advocate for women's rights. You can also be a man, non-binary, anything.
Why would you, as a man or a non-binary person, or even as a woman, want to advocate for women's rights?
Because we want to make sure there's equality in the world.
Why?
Because otherwise it wouldn't be fair.
Why does that matter?
Because if it's not fair, people start complaining.
So women are complaining right now?
All the time, because it's not fair.
Okay, cool. So I have another question for you. Have you heard of intersectional feminism?
No.
Okay, so Kimberlé Crenshaw came up with the term intersectionality, which a lot of people misuse. Intersectionality is essentially the layers of oppression on top of a person's identity. So the oppression that comes with race, the oppression that comes with gender and sexuality. So if you were a Black queer woman, essentially intersectionality is talking about all the different ways in which oppression meets you each day in different scenarios. So when we talk about feminism, what do people generally think of when they think of feminism?
They usually think of a white woman.
Okay, and so why would intersectional feminism be a good idea?
Because it's not just white women, it's also Black women, women of color, because as you said about oppression, each race comes with their own layer of oppression.
Okay. All right. That's cool. Okay. So, why is it important to read stories about Black and non-Black people of color, or even by Black and non-Black people?
It's important because, one, we should learn about culture and what they do as culture, and learn their point of view and what they're going through.
How does that help us? How does learning someone else's culture and point of view help?
Because if we just say something mean to them, right, just something mean, and you don't even know what they're going through, you sound like the bad person in the situation.
So learning about perspectives of other people or reading narratives about Black and non-Black people can give you insight into who they are and what they're experiencing?
Yes.
Okay. All right, cool. How about you? Why should we read narratives about and by Black and non-Black people of color?
Because we need to get a more diverse perspective, because lots of books are just written by like the same people, like white men and women. No like shade to them, because some of their books are really good.
Like Dr.
But
Seuss.
Dr. Seuss was racist.
It was
unfortunately.
He has what? How?
Well, he drew racist cartoons, and I haven't shown them to you yet.
How about the books are good?
Well, the books are great, and they're a great way to read, but he definitely has had some. Yeah, it's time for. Yeah, it's very
I didn't know.
questionable.
I'm sorry.
No, but now you do know, right? And hey, now everybody listening also knows. Okay, so let your sister finish her point.
I'm sorry.
So you were saying no shade to people who
no
have been.
shade to people like white male and female authors, but we need a more diverse, like children's books. We need more diverse chapter books, comic books, essays, because these things are actually appearing in the modern world, even though some people are saying, they're like, oh, this world is changing so fast, but really we still haven't taken the perspectives of Black people into account.
Interesting. So when people are saying that the world is changing so fast, do you think that the world is changing so fast, or do you think that their understanding of the world is changing so fast?
I feel like it's a little bit of both, because if you think about it, yes, like I previously stated, like you need to take into account the minds of the Black people and the women and the people of color, because they might not have the same perspective of you. When you say the world is changing so fast, it could be your perspective of the world, or it could be like technology. You don't know what they're specifically talking about, so it's kind of like they're kind of giving a broad example.
Okay, cool. So if you didn't know about something before and now you're aware of it, in your mind you might say, oh my God, the world is changing so fast. But those people who've been living those experiences, is the world changing for them, or is that just how it is?
It stays the same because like even though you think it's changed, it's been the same for them for like their whole life.
So,
like I was trying to say, like, I guess how you described it was very, like, well to what I was trying to say. It's like, if you were, say, living in a world with dragons, and you bring a dragon to America, and America was like, oh, wow, the world is changing so fast. We have dragons. These dragon people, well, not dragon people, literally, but people with dragons, yeah. They're like, oh, they came down from heaven, praise the dragon people, and then like they're looking at us like, what? We've had these
been
dragons
here for our whole life.
Yeah, these have been here for millennials. Where y'all at?
Okay, so I get it now. That was a very windy story of awesomeness, but you're absolutely right. Like if somebody has been living with a characteristic of their culture their whole lives for millennia, then when you, who have never been aware of it or who have never noticed it or who have ignored it, finally sees it, you're saying, oh my God, it's changing. But for that person,
it's the same.
It's just like, this is how we roll.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Is there anything you want to add?
They already took everything I was going to say.
Okay.
Well, your perspective is valued in this podcast.
Exactly.
So you're part of this, even if you don't want to be.
No thanks.
Okay, stop. So I've been talking a lot about culturally relevant teaching and culturally relevant pedagogy. And I've been just kind of thinking like, what are some practical ways that teachers can incorporate narratives and cultures and experiences and stories that are diverse into their classroom practices? So like, your sister's going to go first, but like, what can teachers do this year to incorporate the narratives of Black and non-Black people of color in the curriculum?
They can read books about Black people. And when I say that, I don't mean read just any book. I mean read books about kids who black kids who live in the suburbs having a normal life, going to school, not just slavery.
So just normal, everyday
Stories, adventures.
What kind? Well, what does that do then, right? Like
That-
if you're not reading like slave narratives, you're reading just normal stuff. Like what does that do for black kids, and what does that do for even white kids?
That makes black kids not look like, oh, you went through slavery? I feel so bad. That makes it seem like, oh, they're just another kid. They're different, but they're not like, oh my God, like, they're
Traumatic.
Traumatic. And I'm pretty sure that all black people don't want people to be like, oh my God, your ancestor went through slavery? I'm so sorry. Like, come on. Like,
Yeah. Okay, that's cool. What about you?
Nice.
Okay, go ahead.
I think that they also should read books or like do a read aloud about them. So like that like maybe someone from your class can learn more about you from that book. Maybe it's like a documentary or something about that person.
So it might entice someone in your class to explore more about the people in the class who are different from them.
Yes.
Huh, that's actually cool and interesting. How about you? Nothing? So, I want to add, we know a lot about, black culture, black people. Yeah, but we need to do better and learn more about indigenous people's culture, Asian culture, Hispanic, Latinx culture. Well, your Caribbean culture is infused with what you guys are doing in your family all the time. But, it's not just about learning about black culture, right? Like, it's also making sure that we learn about everyone. So that is a responsibility of each household. So it's not just a matter of, okay, we're black, we know, about black people, so we're good. No, we need to learn about Asian people, indigenous people, Hispanic, Latinx people, and so many other people.
Also, even though probably you know a lot about your culture, doesn't mean you know all about your culture or like what the past people were like thinking about or what they gone through.
That is a very beautiful point, that just because you know a bit about your own culture, there's still more to learn. There's so much more to learn. Okay, I'm gonna ask you a question, right? Where in the curriculum can teachers infuse cultures and narratives of other people? What are just some subjects?
Read aloud.
We did reading class. What are other places?
History class.
History. What else?
Ooh, art.
Art.
Music.
Lunch.
Lunch.
Actually, yes, lunch.
Because there are a lot of cultures.
Yeah, you know what? In fact, if you look at the menu at your school, sometimes they try to mix it up a little bit depending on what school you go to, right? Yeah. What about science and math? Is there a place for diverse narratives in science and math?
There is.
I think that is the place where they need to work the hardest.
Because even science is a great subject, but I feel like they need a lot more.
Yeah, we need a lot more inclusion in the STEM fields. A lot more inclusion. Okay, cool. So we're talking a lot about reading the narratives by and about black and non-black people of color. But I'm going to ask, why, for the teachers out there and even for the parents, right? Why is it important for black and non-black kids of color to create from their perspectives or to even, share their narratives?
I think it's good because so at our school, we have this cultural day. It's called International Night, where all the kids can come dress up as their culture and bring food and celebrate their culture, and everyone learns a bit about everyone else. I think kids expressing themselves to their parents, to their classmates, to their teachers is good because if someone just suspects something but it's not true about them, then they'll feel bad and they can't express it themselves.
So are you saying that being able to express stuff about you allows you to have confidence?
Yes.
Because I want to make sure I'm hearing right. Like, I want to make sure I'm getting it right.
Sorry, I didn't explain it fully.
Oh, no. Like, that's why we're having this back and forth conversation. Don't ever apologize. All right. What about you?
It's important so that we can It's important so that we can know what's going on in their culture for like inclusion purposes, like not just read books about their culture, but also get to hear and experience from a person who's actually Native American, Hispanic, Black,
So you want to hear it from their perspective. So having kids in the classroom sharing with each other, right? Like, why is it important for kids in a classroom to share their culture with each other? Like, what does that do?
It helps make everyone feel welcome and important, and that their culture is honored.
I feel like it makes people understand other people better.
And when you understand someone better, what are you less likely to do?
You're less likely to
make racist remarks and stuff like that. Because now say before this is kind of but before you only thought that Black people only eat chicken watermelon, but after you learn more about Black people, you know that there's more food to that. There's not just that. And you also know that Black people also can try different foods from different cultures. They don't eat just one thing.
That's a great point. That's a really great point.
Good point.
All right. Great discussion today. I think it was kind of short, but meaningful. All right. Yeah. So thank you all so very much for sharing your perspectives today.
Thank you for having us,
Thank you.
Mrs. Morley.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Deep,
Thank you. All right.
deep podcast voice.
Thank you for having us.
The narratives we read reinforce whose voice is important and whose voice is not. This fall, we challenge parents and educators to incorporate diverse perspectives and narratives into everything that they do. Check out the work of Gloria Ladson-Billings, Culturally Relevant Teaching, which is a pedagogical practice for not only celebrating diversity, but most importantly, it centers the perspectives of diverse students in their learning and then challenges them to address the inequities that they see. This practice isn't just for Black and non-Black students of color, but also is an important pedagogical practice for white kids too, as they need to become more culturally competent in cultures other than their own, or what we all perceive as the normal culture. How can we elevate Ladson-Billings' framework in all subject areas and in our homes? If you have any cool epiphanies you'd like to share, please leave them in the comments or share them with us on social media.
Okay. Pedagogical. Come on, girl. Pedagogical. Pedagogical.
Each episode, we will share quotes that we find inspirational.
Lizzo is an American singer, rapper, songwriter, actress, and flautist. Her quote, "Boss up and change your life."
Gloria Ladson-Billings is a American pedagogical theorist and teacher educator. Her quote, "We are not in this fight to win. We are in this fight to struggle."
My quote is by Mae C. Jemison, who was the first Black female astronaut. My quote is, "Don't let anyone rob you of your imagination, your creativity, or your curiosity. It is your place in the world. It's your life. Go on and do all the things you can with it and make it the life you want to live."
My quote is by Dr. Bettina Love, author, professor at the University of Georgia, and a founder of the abolitionist teaching movement, whose mission focuses on restoring the humanity of children in schools. Her quote, "Protecting children's potential is not an easy lift, and it cannot be done episodically."
Thank you for listening to the Let's K-12 Better podcast.
If you enjoyed this episode, please rate, review, and subscribe.
We want to hear from you. Connect with us on social media at Let's K-12 Better on all social media platforms, or connect with me on Twitter and Instagram at Mom of All Capes. You can find our podcast on your favorite podcasting app. And don't forget to rate and review this podcast. Your stars help us go far.
See you next time.